So we're just going to go over, as we've come just past the 7th of September, we're just going to go over some of the importance of the festival of Ganesh, which is taking place right now in India from the 31st of August over to the 9th of September. And why are we focusing on this? Well, this story, the story of Ganesh and Skanda and Lord Shiva and Parvati, we're going to look at this story from Indian mythology, and we're going to also bring this in relation to business. Now, how are we going to do this, or why would we do this? Well, it's my belief that business is not something that is separate from the spiritual path. In fact, it's something that's inextricably linked to what we do in life. So business, work, what we do is not in its essence to be separated from the esoteric life or the spiritual life. And we may have grown accustomed to this in terms of saying, I go to church on Sunday and that's my spiritual life. But the deeper we come into real esoterics, real understanding of the spiritual, of course, it's part of our whole lives. So rather than just a short designated period where we have Monday to Friday, this is my work time, then the weekend, this is my free time, and then Sunday, this is my time for spirit or for God or for spiritual practice. Very much when we're looking at business, we're looking at how can we bring these spiritual ideas into the way that we conduct ourselves in life, in business. So I think not only this, but if we look at some of the essentials about doing business, it's very much keeping yourself on the path, persistence, especially as a self-employed person, but also as a worker, the persistence, the devotion, the loyalty to your idea or the job that you're employed to do. This is what is part of your will. This is driving you forward. So if you lose that passion, that's a danger. And I think we've all known this when we've decided to move on from one job to another, or when we've decided to go self-employed and try and do something ourselves. It's how do we keep this this passion? How do we find perhaps our passion? So this is also a question of inspiration. It's a question of inner work. And again, here we see the importance of images. Now, let's go then straight away and look at the calendar of the soul. This is from Rudolf Steiner. And we're going to look then at the calendar of the soul for this period. So here we have also, this is Ganesh to my left behind. And here we have the calendar of the soul for from Rudolf Steiner for the 1st to the 7th of September. Now, as we read this, what we're looking to do is also sense the color that at this time of the year over in India, also over here in Europe, is similar on a similar level. The season, there's color that comes from the seasons, but this is also something that we can inwardly perceive. And what comes to you is this yellow. This is not. I would encourage you to compare the sense of light and the sense that comes through color, the impression from high summer and then into late summer, and how it now creates this quite bright inner yellow that we see here also on Ganesh. And I think it's interesting that his birthday coming at this time, the celebration of his birthday, the festival of Ganesh, coming at this time, end of 31st of August. And then we have the 2 days later, the 2nd of September, we have the fasting festival of Skanda. Now, Ganesh and Skanda, we're going to look at these two characters today, and I'm going to look at the story of Ganesh and Skanda. And we're going to approach this and see what inspiration can we draw from this story, and bring this into relation to some of the things that we're trying to do with business. So first of all, here we have the verse from Rudolf Steiner, that light from cosmic space lives on intensively within, becoming light of the soul, illuminating spirit depths to set free fruits, and let mature in the course of time the human self from out of the cosmic self. Now, I think this is particularly poignant in reference. Of course, we immediately get a sense of the cosmic aspect of existence when we see the image of Ganesh. And also this sense of light, which I'm drawing our attention to. So this expanding, a sense that we can expand ourselves out into the widths to become one with, in our soul, to become one with the natural world around us. This is the first step. And then if we look at this as a light of the soul, to set free fruits. Now, these are also to be regarded as our own inner fruits. What are the inner fruits that grow within this light? That's the second aspect. Now, the human self from the cosmic self. If we take this idea of the birthday of Ganesh, and then we see also what's connected with a festival, a celebration, is also a day of fasting. Now, we know from, if you've heard the story of Ganesh and Skanda before, you'll know perhaps, or maybe this is new to you, that Skanda is known as the leader of the celestial armies against the Asuras. The Asuras are a form of demon. We know this from anthroposophy in the West, but they are also part of the Indian mythological tradition. And Skanda fights these, leads the celestial armies in this fight against the Asuras. And it's also this sense in the West, we have the tradition of Michael at this time of year with the spear defeating the dragon. And so it kind of connects to this in a way that we can go deeper into maybe at a different point. But this sense of this defeat, this confrontation of Skanda with the demonic forces. So we're going to focus next on the images here of Skanda and Ganesh. So in a very lovely way here we have Ganesh. Now Ganesh rides on a mouse and Skanda rides in fact on a peacock. In a very lovely way, you can see here. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to talk through some of the story, and you'll see aspects of this story. People who have been following the courses that I've been doing, they will see elements of this in this story, elements of revenge, the path of discovering one's fire, the fire of oneself within one's biography. And through this, discovering what one wants to do in their lives. And the path to do this involves a battle. So this sense of battle on the one hand, represented through Skanda, and the sense of Ganesh as being that sense of peace, spiritual connection that we can hold on to so that we can perceive, have insight into the things that we need to have insight into to be able to progress spiritually and to bring what we have of the spirit into the physical world, into our deeds and into our karma. So I'm going to leave these pictures up and just turn to the story here. So first of all, we're looking at Skanda's birth. Now, Skanda's first wife was Sita, and Sita was the daughter of Daksha. Now, once when Shiva visited his wife's home, Daksha insulted him before many of his guests. Now, Sita could not bear this. Sitting down, she meditated on the element of fire and, igniting her own body, gave it up. Shiva was furious, and he and his followers devastated Daksha's city, killing many of his priests and ministers. So as we've seen before, this reference to conflict and revenge, but within this revenge, can we come from the outer need to destroy enemies? And in a business sense, I find this very interesting to reflect on, especially on something we've been talking about recently in terms of associative economics. Can we come away from this sense of competition, competitive economics? This is the world we live in, where one defeats the other and goes their other way to produce their own thing, their own world, their own army. And yet within this, we have this other sense of, within revenge, the sense of, I will through this find my fire, my own fire, the sense of my own I, my own self, and I will learn to channel this. So in a way, we have two aspects. We have a lower form, outer revenge, but within this, we have this element of fire that can really bring us to awaken to what it is that we want to carry into the world. So Shiva was mortified and retired to the Himalayas for a life of austerity and penance. So Shiva, the husband of Sita, after she'd gone and done this meditation on the fire, Shiva was mortified. He retires to the Himalayas for a life of austerity and penance. Shortly afterwards, a terrible demon called Sura Padma began to ravage the universe and torment innocent beings. The gods realized that only a son born from Shiva could defeat this demon. They brought back to life Sita, who was reborn as Parvati, the daughter of the Himalayas. I think this is a wonderful image if we hold to mind this vast expanse of the Himalayas. And if you've ever been to the Himalayas, this great sense of the feminine power of a great mother force of this great range of the Himalayas, an incredible spiritual force. But Shiva remained absorbed in deep meditation and could not be agitated by Parvati's beauty. The demigods then send Kama, or Cupid, the god of love, to shoot at Shiva one of his fabled arrows. Now Shiva was furious to be disturbed in his meditation in such a way, and opening his third eye, he burnt Kama to ashes. Upon hearing the pleas of Rati, Kama's wife, he brought the deity of love back to life. By this time, Shiva's prolonged meditation was well and truly disturbed. Parvati undertook severe penance to win the lord of her heart, and Brahma eventually married the divine couple. But even after many years, Parvati did not conceive. The fiery semen of Shiva was so potent that Parvati was scared to receive it. This vital energy was deposited with Agni, the fire god, and later transported by the river Ganga into the Saravama forest. Then 6 of the wives of the 7 great sages accepted Shiva's semen and brought up 6 children, which were later joined together to become their common son with 6 heads. The husbands of the 6 mothers cursed their wives for their infidelity, and they become the stars in the sky. The Kritikayas, the Kritikas in the west, called the Pleiades. Because the Kritikas brought up Sanmukha, he is called Kartikaya, Skanda, Kritikaya. He became the commander-in-chief of the demigods and led them to victory against Shurapadma and the other demons. Now, here we come. That's a background, and I'll put the link to the story below. You can read this and for yourself and contemplate it. This is this process whereby from a kind of eternal marriage between Parvati and Shiva, the whole path is established whereby we can return to this eternal state. And this path is then developed, first of all, through the story of the process of the relationship between Parvati and Shiva, and how that comes to be, how that comes to establish the importance of spiritual fire, the element of fire. And secondly, it's then the description of the birth of the two sons, Ganesh and Skanda. My hands are doing the opposite. Ganesh and Skanda. So we know Skanda, he rides on the peacock, Ganesh rides on a mouse. So let's look at how this story develops with Skanda and Ganesh, and we'll get a sense of something that I mentioned at the beginning, this sense of not only do we need to go out into the world and strive to do something, to strive to ennoble ourselves, to better ourselves, to overcome our inner demons, reflected in the Skanda fasting time, where we pull ourselves back, we take stock. Not only this, but this balance also with the devotion, the reverence for the spiritual and for our cosmic relation. As Steiner says at the beginning, the human self from the cosmic self, a sense for this light at this time of year, when not only are we sensing this light, it's coming as nature is starting to die away. And so these elements of spring that are now dying away are bringing us in touch, not only with the fire where we find our ich, our I, our self in a spiritual sense. It's also through this being able to look down into the earth and see where our path in life might be leading. Skanda and Ganesh race each other. One day, both Ganesh and his younger brother, Kartikeya, Skanda, were seated with their mother Parvati, who was explaining to them about the mystery of the universe, how she was created by God, and how under God's command she acts as universal mother, Shakti. She explained to them at great length that the three worlds represented her own body. When she had finished, the two brothers fell into an argument and challenged each other to race around the entire universe. Kartikeya was a proud rider of a peacock, was fully convinced that he would beat his brother Ganesh, a rider of the mouse. He said to his brother, "When you return, you will find me seated here, near our mother, after I have completed the ride through the three worlds." Kartikeya flew off at breakneck speed on his peacock. Ganesh just smiled. Without stirring, he just remained seated where he was, enjoying his mother's company. Parvati felt amused and asked him, "Why are you waiting? Aren't you going to start?" "Yes, mother." Ganesh got up, prostrated himself before his mother Parvati, and then circled his mother and bowed 3 times and quietly sat down near her. Kartikeya soon returned, panting but jubilant, convinced that he had beaten his brother by a very good margin. But his triumphant smile faded on his lips as he saw Ganesh sitting there so quietly. And Kartikeya asked his brother why he hadn't started. Ganesh calmly stated that he had finished the race long ago. Kartikeya was incredulous. He said, "Impossible. I didn't see you overtaking me. My peacock has raced so fast, and certainly your mouse cannot reach that speed." "You are right, Kumar," Ganesh assented. "But don't you remember what our mother had just told us, that her body represents the 3 worlds? So while you were riding through them, I went round our mother 3 times. Kartikeya hung his head and accepted defeat. Now, we can say this in a very simple way, that wherever we go, we take ourselves. And it's a reminder that in whatever we do, the outer conquest, the outer success, is really part of a development of our own consciousness, for us to come back, to take stock, to recognize this wisdom of Ganesh, the wisdom of Ganesh seated with Parvati. But also, we can't avoid this path of Skanda, this path that takes us out to overcome the resistant powers. So from an anthroposophical sense, we have also these 3 resistant powers very nicely represented here. First of all, we have the Ahrimanic resistant power of materialism, to see the world as a cold, hard world of purely matter. To overcome this, we come to the spiritual conception. Secondly, if we go out into the senses, we come the great glory of the senses. We come to Lucifer, the second form of resistant power. And then thirdly, the demon from the physical, the temptation to focus and fall down only into the worship of the physical. Here, to overcome this resistant power, we set something against the Asuras. And this is something, again, that we're going more deeply into in the courses at the moment, where we're looking at the course of lectures from Rudolf Steiner, From Jesus to Christ. I just wanted to give that overview now of the story of Ganesh and Skanda, bring it in relation to what has been happening since the 31st of August. And ongoing, to look at how those elements, there are elements of that story that one can also bring into the story of Vida, and the story of Vida as it relates to the story of Mikhail at this time of year as we approach Michaelmas. That will be the theme of another talk that I'd like to put together in the coming weeks. So if you like the content that we're doing, please subscribe below. Yeah, if you'd like to find us, you can find us on Facebook. I'll put in some links in the description below. Okay, till then, ciao, ciao.